And I'm going to pronounce your name Amer the white way, as you love to say on your videos,
That's
because
good. I'll
I'm
take
not
it.
going to butcher it for you. If you watch his videos, he always tries to teach us how to say his name properly. I'm not even going to try, my friend, but I appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so I was telling before the show, you're Palestinian American, you're a law professor, you were a Bernie Sanders surrogate, you're a writer, you're a comedian, you have a long laundry list. But if you could, before we get into the nuts and bolts of your perspective on what's happening, just give people a little bit more background on who you are and what you do.
Well, I am Palestinian. I'm American. My parents are both Palestinian refugees, ethnically cleansed from their homeland. My dad was born in the city of Jaffa in 1948, which is now taken over by Tel Aviv and Israeli control. I was born in Jordan. I came to America when I was 3. I grew up outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And then when I was 18, I was like the only Arab kid in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, or in my little suburb. So when I was 18, I wanted to go to a big college, and I came to the University of Michigan in Ann Arbor. And Michigan is also known as having the largest concentration of Arab Americans anywhere. Right. So I kind of wanted to come to my people, like I'm here. I live now in Dearborn. Dearborn is like, it's like Arabs Harlem. I mean, it's like what Harlem is to black people, what Miami is to Cubans, Dearborn is to Arabs. So okay. I've lived here now for a long time. And I'm also a graduate of the University of Michigan Law School as well. I have a master's degree in something they call the Middle East and North African Center as well. And so I studied deeply the history. I taught it. But I got into comedy in my last year of law school, and now I've been doing stand-up comedy as my main gig since about 2005 or 6.
Sweet. Okay. So I wanted you to kind of give a little bit of your resume, as they say, because I want people to understand that you know your stuff. It's not like we're just pulling somebody right off the street to talk about something like this. But I will first ask you this before I get into more meaty questions. Yeah. How difficult is it to have a conversation right now about what's going on between Israel and Hamas? For you as a Palestinian, how difficult is it?
Well, it starts with the framing, right? So I think that while I'm sure you come to this with a open mind, even I would push back a little bit on the framing of Israel and Hamas. It's not a war between Israel and Hamas. It's a war between Israel and the Palestinian people. And it's been an ongoing thing. And October 7th is a part of it. But one of the mistakes we're making is looking at October 7th in a vacuum. History is important and we have to learn it.
Can I just ask you real quickly?
2 million people in Gaza.
Okay, just real quickly, because again, I'm learning as you are. So you're saying it's between Israel and the Palestinian people. So do you see Hamas and the Palestinian people as one and the same? Am I supposed to, as an American, am I supposed to? Okay, so can you differentiate that for me?
Hamas is a political movement, an Islamic political movement within the Palestinian people. The predominant political movements within the Palestinian people are secular. Like in the PLO is ruled by a party called Fatah, which is where Yasser Arafat and the current leader of the PLO and the PA come from, which is a secular movement. Hamas is a religious movement within the Palestinian people. So Hamas are Palestinians, but they don't represent all Palestinians, just like no political party represents all Palestinians. And this political party, like many political parties, especially political parties that have existed under occupation, like the African National Congress. The African National Congress was this huge movement, and it had a militant wing, and Hamas has a militant wing. Now, if I'm a secular type guy. My dad is Christian, my mom is Muslim. I come from an interreligious Palestinian family. They're both Palestinian. If I, one day when we're free and we're voting for political parties, I probably wouldn't vote for Hamas. It doesn't represent my worldview. But they are a segment of the Palestinian people. But again, it would be too simple to say they're one and the same. The Palestinian society has many different political movements, many different political parties, not just two like America, for instance. And Hamas is a minority political party inside our society.
But do you see that Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th, or was that Palestinian people that attacked on October 7th?
I don't really accept that question. I mean, I
Okay.
mean, obviously Hamas undertook it operationally, and Hamas is Palestinian. So,
Right. Okay. Yeah, I guess, and
you
I'm
know,
trying to
but the
understand. Right.
war is clearly against all Palestinians. So there's 2.2 million Palestinians in Gaza. They don't all fall within the political leanings of Hamas. And what
Mhm.
we see going on, again, you don't fight a political party through uh, or what you think is a political problem through military means. That's really never worked. And so the war is clearly against all the people of Gaza, who are all Palestinian, who are not all Hamas. I mean,
I see.
we can agree on that principle. And
Okay.
so when they are carpet bombing entire residential areas and saying that they're doing things with precision, and then you see the pictures, of course, of entire residential areas razed to the ground, that is not a precise attack against a movement. That is a collective punishment, war of revenge, whatever you want to call it. But it's not a war against one group of people or to try to rid the area of one group of people. And now you have Israeli politicians openly talking about, moving, ethnically cleansing all 2 million people out of Gaza into Egypt and other places around the world. They're openly talking about that as what they would like to. The ruling party is openly talking about that.
We have a question from one of our viewers, and I hope this is okay to bring up questions from some of our viewers.
Sure.
And again, I'm reading these live to you, okay?
Sure.
The Lori asks, especially since he refers to ethnic cleansing, do you feel betrayed by other Arab countries, and in particular by Jordan? Arab countries could have taken people and created a state.
Again, Arabs are obviously, everyone who lives in the Arab world, or most of the people who live in the Arab world are Arabs, and we have a connection to each other through language and culture and history, like Palestinians and Jordanians and Lebanese and Syrians, and from Morocco all the way to Iraq. But we're still from where we're from. So we're still from our villages and cities in Palestine, which are not the same as the villages and cities in Jordan or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So this notion that we should just be taken in by other Arab countries, we're from where we're from. I mean, it's right. It would be like telling people, it would be like somebody taking over, I don't know, Rwanda and telling the people in Rwanda, well, you're African. The people in Nigeria are African. Why don't you just go there? And they say, no, we're from here. We're from here. This is where we're from. This is where our history is from. So, there have been many conflicts and problems throughout the Arab world for centuries, just like any other part of the world, but not a massive ethnic cleansing like what Israel did in 1948 and continues to try to do until this day. In fact, the land of Palestine has only had really 3 major ethnic cleansing programs in its history. One of them was done by the Romans against the Jews, called the Bar Kokhba Revolt, about 100 years after Jesus, when the Romans decided to finally push down any Jewish presence in Palestine. The other one was the Crusades, which was done by Europeans in from the late 11th century through the 13th century. And then 1948 in Palestine. Other than that, Palestine has been a place where people have come and migrated. It's been a destination for centuries. We Palestinians today are a mixture of all the people that have been through the land, including Jews and including Arabs and including Greeks and Byzantines and Romans and Turks and everybody. We're a mixture of all those people. Our culture today is Arab. Our language is Arabic. But this notion that, well, all the Arabs are the same, so they should all just the Palestinians could be okay from just going from Nazareth or Jaffa or Haifa, just go to Jordan or go to Syria or go to Lebanon. It doesn't work like that. And no one would expect that of any other people.
What does free Palestine mean? And is it actually possible? So when you say, and I've watched some of your videos, and you urge people just keep saying free Palestine, what does that mean? Specifically also in relation to Israel.
Do you think free South Africa meant that white people had to lose their rights? Do you think that the civil rights movement in America in the 60s meant that white people had to lose their rights? Do you think that Black Lives Matter means no other lives matter? I mean, this is the ridiculousness of it. Yes, free Palestine from occupation, from apartheid, from racism. It doesn't. When you start to think that other people's freedom or a land's freedom or whatever it might be means a reduction of your own freedom, well, maybe that's because that's what you've been doing to other people. And maybe that's because, I don't know, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just a lawyer and a comedian, but I think that's called projection. I mean, do you know that in America, for instance, it is the Census Bureau has said that because of the sort of brownification of America over time, that white people will become a minority by 2042. So they'll become less than 50% of the population. Does that scare you, Nikki?
No.
Okay. Do you know who it does scare? It scares some segments of white people.
Right.
Because they were like, man, that's really scary. Now, why would you be scared? Why in America would you be scared of becoming a minority? Well, maybe it's because you know what has happened to minorities in America, and you say, well, I don't want to be a part of that. Well, to all the people who would like to oppress minorities, or to all the people who believe in Zionism as a purely Jewish homeland, we must maintain a Jewish majority. Well, believe it or not, and to all the people who believed in apartheid or who believed in Jim Crow in America, you're not our example. We are not looking to oppress you. It is not our desire to oppress other people. It's our desire to get freedom for ourselves. So when we say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that means for everybody. And if you don't think it means for everybody, well, that sounds like a you problem. It doesn't sound like a me problem.
Okay. So it's not, and again, because then people will use that slogan. We've seen it in Washington, D.C. We've seen it, where people use that phrase to mean that it's something anti-Semitic, that it means the destruction of Israel.
Well, no, people who are pro-Israel as a rhetorical argument try to characterize these things as anti-Semitic. So people aren't using it as anti-Semitism. I mean, again, people who are anti-Semitism is one of the tools that pro-Israel people wield to shut down debate and shut down any questioning of Israel. Well, if you question Israel, you're anti-Semitic. I don't know why that's true. If you question Saudi Arabia, you don't hate Muslims. If you question Amer, there are like, I don't know if you've ever looked at the flags of Europe. Okay, there's like 7 countries in Europe that have the cross on their flag. Did you know that? I mean, like Finland, Sweden, all these countries have the cross on their flag. Okay, if you are, which obviously is an ode to Christianity, if you are criticizing any of those countries, does that mean you hate Christians? I mean, it's just silliness. We are criticizing a policy of a country. And then people say to Palestinians, oh, you're singling out Israel. I mean, this is one of the crazy. Are we allowed to curse on this show?
Sure, no, just talk. Yeah,
yeah, it's okay. I mean, I don't want to. I was just thinking, like, if it comes up, I just want to know. I don't know if we're like.
Yeah,
I don't know if we're like.
YouTube. It's YouTube. They don't.
It's YouTube. Okay, it's not the FCC or anything. Okay.
No, it's not.
So, it's so crazy, right? I mean, Palestinians are mad at the people who oppressed us and kicked us out of our land and lived into our grandmother's houses and don't let us come back. They happen to be Jewish. They could have been anything. They could have been Muslims, they could have been Christians, they could have been Buddhists. We would be mad at the people who did that to us. I mean, saying that Palestinians are singling out Israel for being Jewish is like saying those 60 women are singling out Bill Cosby for being black. They're not singling out Bill Cosby for being black. They're singling out Bill Cosby because of what he did to them.
I see. Yeah.
He could have been anything, but it was because of what he did to them. And so this inserting religion into this just clouds the debate. And it's a way, look, it's a tool of the pro-Israel people. And by the way, some people on the pro-Palestine people make it about, on the pro-Palestine side of a minority, make it about religion too, and they're just as wrong. But making it about religion is a tool to sort of shut down the debate, right? If I say this is a religious conflict, and pro-Israel people do this, right? Say it's a religious conflict, it's been going on for years, and all, none of that's true. This is a modern grievance, right? But when you call it a religious conflict and label it that way, what does that do? That makes a lot of onlookers kind of check out, right? Because if somebody tells you it's a religious conflict, you say, oh, I don't want to have anything to do with that. I don't want to get, I mean, these religious people are crazy, right? I don't want to get into any of that. Religious people fight with each other over religion. I don't want to be a part of that. But when you start framing it as we Palestinians do in terms of civil rights and ethnic cleansing and apartheid, then it's something that becomes universal. And Israel doesn't want that. But of course, that's what it is.
But you said, and again, correct me because I'm learning today, but you said that Hamas is a religious group They're not secular. And so if
Yes.
Hamas is behind, let's say, let's just do October 7th, then
Mhm.
it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to people to believe that it is based on some sort of
Only
religious.
only if you view October 7th in a complete vacuum.
Okay.
Only if you view October 7th in a complete vacuum and say history started October 7th. And again, only if you think Hamas as a political idea is representative of all Palestinians, which we know it's not, right? The people who were standing on the White House lawn in 1993 with President Clinton shaking hands with Yitzhak Rabin were not Hamas. They were secular Palestinian leaders. Again, the people still in charge in Ramallah at the highest levels of the Palestinian National Authority, which is a different question in its own case, are secular, not Islamic based. So it's one movement. But again, history didn't start October 7th, right? This is why you see Palestinian and Israel's response has not been. Israel's bombed churches in Gaza. I mean, Israel has sniped people in churches. This has all been well documented in the media and by, third-party human rights organizations. So Israel's not even attacking it in a religious way, obviously, because to them, it's all Palestinians are the same. All Palestinians are terrorists. All Palestinians are human shields. So Hamas might be a political movement that is religious in its nature, but it's not representative of all Palestinians, not even the majority of Palestinians, and history didn't start October 7th. It's Nat Turner. Do you know who Nat Turner was?
Nat Turner. Let's remind people of who you're
Nat
talking
Turner was a slave.
about.
And in 1831 in Virginia, in 1831, he escaped from his slave owner's house, his master's house, and he got together with other slaves. And he had a rebellion, and it was very ugly. He went into white people's houses. He killed women and children. It was ugly. But nobody looks back at what Nat Turner did and say, because of what Nat Turner did, slavery was right. Because of what Nat Turner did, all black people should pay the price. In fact, many people look in American history today as the Nat Turner Rebellion as one of the most pivotal moments in American history of waking up the eyes of America to slavery. In fact, today, in many places in America, there are streets and parks named after Nat Turner. There was also something called the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, in where Jews armed themselves and fought back against their occupiers in the 40s in Poland. So these things happen. Now, if you want to get into, you look at Nat Turner, you look at the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, and you say, okay, these things might be terrible. They might be horrible, and some of the atrocities were committed. Yeah, it's terrible. But what are the conditions that lead to something like this? You cannot just look at them in a complete vacuum. Mm-hmm. Did you watch A Time to Kill? I don't know how old. I want to ask you how old you are.
A Time to Kill. Yes.
I'm
a Matthew McConaughey fan, so
okay,
good. I've watched there he is right there.
Okay.
So yeah.
There's literally a picture of Matthew McConaughey behind you, Nikki.
That's him.
That's a big fat wedding ring, right? I see on the finger.
Oh yeah, this is just a daydream over here. That's fine.
Is he your hall pass? Have you gotten?
We've had this conversation because I got to meet him. My husband is fully aware of my daydream of Matthew McConaughey. It's okay.
So we won't get into that. Maybe that's another episode. I'm happy to come back at any time. I'm not a psychologist,
Perfect.
But I am a lawyer. If you ever need representation in family court.
Never. Love
sorry.
Husband.
Okay. So,
A Time to Kill.
A Time to Kill. I'm sure most people have heard of. I've seen it. If you haven't seen it, I might ruin it for you in the next couple minutes.
It's an old movie. You should have watched it by now.
1996, A Time to Kill. It's set in Mississippi. Mm-hmm. Matthew McConaughey is a white lawyer. Samuel L. Jackson is a guy named Carl Lee Haley. He's a black man. He's a black father. His daughter in the beginning of the movie is raped by white nationalists, white guys. Okay. Mm-hmm. And they're going to court, and there is a thought that they might get off. And he's worried about that. So what does he do? He sneaks into the courthouse, hides out with a gun, and jumps out when they're coming into the courthouse and shoots these two white men who raped his daughter, who have not even gone to trial yet. Right. He shoots them. And then he goes on trial. And Matthew McConaughey represents him. And Nikki, during the movie, was there any question that Samuel L. Jackson shot these guys?
No. Was
there any question that he planned to shoot these guys?
No.
Did he know what? Well, he planned it, right? I mean,
Yeah, he
planned it,
brought the
right?
gun.
Yeah, I mean, he had the gun. He was hiding out in the courthouse.
Yeah.
Did he mean to shoot them?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Were you rooting for him to get acquitted?
Yes, because we knew what happened in the past. But I
Whoa.
understand and I totally understand the example and why you're using that. But and I know that we can't look at October 7th. We can't look at a lot of things in a vacuum. I
Sure.
totally get what you're saying. At the same time, people are also horrified by what happened not only on October 7th, but everything that's come after it. And I
Mhm.
hate using the term both sides because I feel like it's demeaning of everything. But again, I don't I want a ceasefire. I want things
So do
to
I.
stop.
Who doesn't want a ceasefire? Pro-Israel people. You're right. Ceasefire just means stop killing each other. Let's figure everything else out.
Yes.
Okay. Well, pro-Israel people are telling you that it's calling for a ceasefire is anti-Semitic. Calling for a ceasefire means you hate Israel. That's crazy. Yes, I agree with you. Ceasefire now. I've led marches here in Detroit. 25,000 people all got together on this unified message. Ceasefire now. I agree with you. Who are the people saying that they don't want a ceasefire? Supporters of Israel. Oh, a ceasefire is giving in to Hamas. A ceasefire means Hamas wins. Why? Hamas is a political problem. Everything that happened up to October 7th comes from political reasons. Yes, you have the firepower. You have the firepower to destroy Gaza. Good for you. You proved that. Right. What has it achieved? Nothing politically.
But do you think that Hamas, Israel wants to get rid of Hamas? They have said that unequivocally. They want to get rid of Hamas. Can you rid Palestine of Hamas without getting rid of all the Palestinian people?
I mean, did you hear the question you just asked? Are you saying that if getting rid of all the Palestinian people meant getting rid of Hamas, it would be worth it?
No, I'm asking you a question. People are saying we have to get rid of Hamas, who they blame for October 7th, right? They blame Hamas. And again, I understand.
Let me ask you as a moral matter. I mean, obviously, if you got rid of all the Palestinian people, you'd get rid of Hamas, obviously.
Which we don't want to happen.
So obviously, we don't accept that as a moral foundation. Obviously, we don't accept that getting rid of all the people to get rid of one political movement is okay, right? We all agree with that. Okay, fine. So Hamas is a political movement brought on by political conditions. It's an idea, just like any political movement. You don't get rid of it through bombing the hell out of it. Just doesn't matter. I mean, you might damage it tactically for a while. You might, and they've done this before. You might kill its leaders. Fine. But Hamas is not a guy in a building. Hamas is a political movement, just like any other political movement, which means it's solved through politics. It's solved through political solutions.
What's the political solution here?
And the occupation, and then let Palestinians try to decide their own future without any external problems, without the problems of a blockade for 17 years of Gaza, where the fishermen of Gaza couldn't go out more than a kilometer from the shores to catch the good fish, that they couldn't decide their own future as like what gets imported and exported from their own country. Everything is controlled by Israel. If you went into the Gaza supermarkets before October 7th, 80% of the products are Israeli because Israel decide what comes in and out of the Gaza Strip. It's a great economy for them. So take away the blockade, let people decide their own future. Let the people say, Israelis like to say, well, we left Gaza. No, you didn't. I mean, you might have moved out of the house, but you still decided what comes into the driveway, what goes into the mailbox, the Palestinians of Gaza. Do you know that Israelis who live on settlements right outside of Gaza have 5G internet on their phones? The Palestinians of Gaza have had 2G. I mean, that's like 2006 type stuff here in America. Why? Because Israel controls the bandwidth. When on October 9th, the Israeli defense minister comes on and says, we're shutting off the water and the fuel, the electricity. Well, why is he able to do that? Because they occupy those things. They control those things. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to say, we're shutting off the water, the fuel, and the electricity. And guess what? They did. So, I mean, again, and they shut off the internet. They shut off the data from the phones whenever they want to. Why? Because they control the air, the sea, the land. Yeah, they might not have their people physically in there, but that's not the point. If they control everything that comes in and out, they control everything above you. That's occupation. And so that definitely is not freedom and self-determination for the Palestinians in Gaza. And those same things happen in the West Bank at varying degrees. So, I mean, we are not talking about a people who's been free to make their own decisions and determine their own history. In other words, self-determination at all since 1948. And so when Israel says, hey, we left in 2005, I mean, this is BS, to use a political term. And they are basically denying history and trying to whitewash it to say, well, October 7th happens just out of some vacuum, right? Because Hamas and Palestinians hate Jews for being Jews. I mean, again, if Palestinians hated Jews for being Jews, or Arabs, as Israel likes to say, hated Jews for being Jews, or all the Muslims in the world, as Israel sometimes like to say, hated Jews for being Jews, then there would be a lot more incidents throughout the world every single day, right? I mean, Palestinians live, there's probably, we don't know for sure, but somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 million Palestinians in America. There are, maybe a little less. There are at least 50 or 60,000 in the Bay Area, probably more, but at least 50, 60,000 in the Bay Area. And there's a lot of Jews in the Bay Area. Are Palestinians attacking Jews in the Bay Area every day or every year? No, of course not. Of course.
Well,
not.
some people would say that there has been a rise in anti-Semitic behavior. There was the flyers outside Jewish restaurants in San Francisco. I mean, some people would point to those and be like, yes, the Jewish people are being targeted, whether it's from Palestinians or other Americans or whoever it is.
Okay. On October 14th, I believe it was October 14th, in Chicago, a 6-year-old Palestinian boy was stabbed 26 times by his landlord. You know that story, right, Nikki?
It's awful.
In over Thanksgiving weekend, 3 Palestinian college students were shot in Burlington, Vermont. You know that story, don't you?
Yes.
Okay. So the truth is, since October 7th in America, the most violent things, and it's not a contest. I don't want to make it a contest, but the truth is that since October 7th in America, the most violent things have happened to Palestinians and Arabs and Muslims as a result of the environment whipped up after October 7th. So if you want to point to that, I'll point to that. But I don't really like doing all of that. But if that's what we're going to do, then hey.
Okay, so the two-state solution, which is often brought up, is that a solution? I mean, do you feel that's a reality? What are your thoughts there?
Well, I don't believe in the two-state solution for many reasons. First of all, Palestinians belong to all of the land. Like, do you see this right here? I don't know if people are, but that's like the whole land of Palestine, which includes present-day Israel, West Bank, and Gaza.
Right.
Okay, Palestinians are from all of that land, so I'm interested in all of our rights and all of our land.
Where's Israel in that then?
I believe in a one-state solution. So Israel, West Bank, Gaza, all are unified under one government and secular, democratic, not a Jewish state, not an Arab state, a state of its citizens, and everybody has the same rights, like America. Or like South Africa solution, where people are treated as people because they're human beings and they have all the same rights, not Jews get more rights than non-Jews, which is the status quo in Israel today. The truth is, it operates like one state right now anyway. Israel controls effectively Gaza, like we explained. They effectively control the West Bank as well. In fact, there's 700 settlers living inside the West Bank. But Jews have more rights than non-Jews. This is clear. I mean, there have been 1 million human rights organizations that have done all the observations and studies on this and laid out all the laws. Human Rights Watch has called Israel apartheid. Amnesty International has called Israel apartheid. B'Tselem, which is the largest Israeli human rights group, has called Israel apartheid in the way that it conducts its governmental policies. And so it operates like one state now, except for you have roughly 14 to 15 million people living between the river and the sea. About 7 to 8 million of them are Jewish. About 2 million of them are Palestinians who are citizens of the Israeli state who live with less rights than Jews in that state. Then you have 3 million that live in the West Bank and 2 million who live in Gaza, who are stateless, don't have a state, don't have a valid passport that they can travel to in other places. The mobility is totally limited by Israel. The goods and the economic rights that they can have are totally limited by Israel. So it is one state now, but you have two sets. While the 700,000 settlers who live in the West Bank are considered Israeli, even though they live technically outside of Israel's borders. They're considered Israeli and operate under Israeli laws and Israeli protections and all that kind of stuff, simply because they're Jewish. So when you have a bunch of people living in one piece of land that is effectively controlled by one government, and certain people have different rights than other people because of their race or their religion or their ethnic background or whatever. Well, we have a name for that. That's called apartheid. And that's what's going on in Israel right now. It is effectively one state. So I believe in giving everybody the same rights in all the land. I don't know what's so radical about that. Yes, that would mean no Jewish majority, maybe. It would mean no Arab majority, maybe. But I don't believe in creating a state based on a majority of people who are all of the same background or religion or faith or whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think of America, obviously. We have many different religions and races and everything in this one country that we have. Although at the same time, I mean, and forgive me for kind of being blunt. I mean, is that realistic? I mean, do you really, how does, that's a great, again, I mean this respectfully, that's a great idea. But given the history of conflict you just went over, how does that in any way, shape, or form happen? That would take a lot of forgiving, a lot of letting go, a lot of trust, a lot of, okay, I'm sorry.
Have you considered the possibility that conflict and tension exists in Palestine precisely because the solution I'm proposing hasn't been attempted? It's the only solution out of all the solutions that has not been attempted.
But who's going to lead that? Who's going to lead that solution?
Oh, great question. But it would have to be people of conscience and people who believe in democracy. Definitely not current Israeli leaders who say this is a Jewish state. Definitely not the current leaders who in 2018 passed the law in Israel that said Israel is the nation state of the Jews only and only is interested in self-determination of Jews only. That's a law passed by the government of Israel. Definitely not a state that says if you're a citizen of Israel and you marry somebody who's not a citizen, you can confer your citizenship upon them. That sounds like a pretty normal thing, just like we have America. You can confer your citizenship, if you're an Israeli citizen, upon a citizen of any other place, unless they're from Palestine. That's what the laws in Israel say. So if you are an Israeli citizen and you marry somebody from Sweden or Finland or anywhere in the world, you can make them an Israeli citizen. If you are an Israeli citizen and you marry someone from Ramallah or Gaza, you cannot make them an Israeli citizen. That sounds a little bit racist. That sounds a little bit terrible. I mean, who is that affecting? That's affecting the 2 million Palestinian citizens of Israel. Israel is an apartheid state. It operates with one set of rules. If you agree with that framework and you agree with that as a moral principle, then great. Israel is the place for you. You know who else agrees with that? ISIS. You know who else agrees with that? The Proud Boys. You know who else agrees with that? The people who held up apartheid in South Africa. I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that as a principle. And so if you say to me, well, it won't work because they're fighting, they're precisely fighting now because no one has ever tried that.
Do you think Hamas wants that? Do you think Hamas wants what you want?
I don't know. I'm not a spokesperson for Hamas. But again, Hamas is not, this constant pointing to Hamas is a distraction. Hamas is one segment of Palestinian society. It is a force that did something on October 7th. But again, history did not start October 7th. And you
is Hamas holding hostages? I mean,
Well, of course they're holding hostages.
So
I mean,
that's why we talk about them.
There have been hostages held. I mean, look, of course they're holding. We don't have to play with. You don't have to question me on like whether I believe in facts. Of course they're holding hostages. But from what I understand now, the majority of the hostages left were military personnel taken on October 7th. And that's not the same as taking civilians on October 7th, as far as I'm concerned. So that's what we understand now. For instance, I think Israelis showed pictures of like 4 young women last week. They said, these 4 women who are being held by Hamas. Yeah, it's terrible. They're soldiers. They were making TikTok soldier videos a few days before October 7th. And so, maybe Israel shouldn't be in military occupation. Maybe Israel shouldn't be, violently occupying a group of people. This is going to be the result. This is the logical result. It's terrible. We wish all this stuff wouldn't happen. But Nat Turner happened. The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising happened. The African, Nelson Mandela was a terrorist. Nelson Mandela was on the U.S. designated terrorist list till 2008. That's 14 years after the fall of apartheid. So, I mean, what are we talking about? If I don't understand why we are able to understand and see historical context in just about every other place in the world intellectually. But when it comes to Palestine, it's like history started October 7th. Right. We cannot fall into that trap.
I have some questions that I want to throw at you, and I really appreciate you taking these on. And please understand that I'm learning along with a lot of people.
I am mad at you.
No, okay, good.
I am mad at you. I hope that you and Matthew McConaughey end up happily ever after.
This is as close as I'm getting to him. I know you can't gather my smile right there.
I am not mad at you.
Okay.
Listen,
I just want to be
I will sit down.
genuine.
I will send you a DVD of the Dallas Buyers Club. I will make sure.
I haven't seen it.
I will send you the Matthew McConaughey DVD collection. No, I ain't mad at you. Look, I understand that these are questions floating out in the world, but we have to hold the Palestine question in the same standards and light that we hold every other question.
Donald asked, doesn't Hamas say they're there to eliminate Israel? Ask him to open things up when Hamas and others will attack Israel. I mean, do you believe that Israel, I guess the question is, do you believe Israel should exist? I mean, I know that it does. And as you were saying, they are still occupying. But do you think that Israel should exist?
Should exist how?
As a place for the Jewish people.
Sure. Should it exist as a place? Look, should it exist as a place that is interested as a government in making sure there is always a Jewish majority in its state on top of a land that is inhabited by other people? No, that should be an easy question. That's called apartheid. Look, obviously Jews have a connection to Palestine, obviously. Obviously, it's part of their history, obviously. Does that mean that you have the right to come and usurp people out of their homelands? No, but Zionists say yes. So again, exist how? Do you believe that America had the right to exist as a slave-owning country? Did it have the right to exist as a Jim Crow practicing country? Did South Africa have a right to exist as a apartheid country? I mean, again, these are questions, these are rhetorical sort of things that are thrown out that only happen in the Israel context, that don't really happen. We don't ask these silly questions about other contexts. So should Israel be a place where Jewish people live safely? Of course, 100%, no matter where they're from. And by the way, Palestine was a place where Jewish people lived in Israel forever. In Palestine, Israel, Judea, I don't really care what you call it. I call it Palestine. It has a lot of names, like Snoop. I think Snoop has like 5 or 6 different names, and he answers to all of them at the same time. I really don't care what you call it, okay? But we do know that Jews have lived in Palestine forever. And so for almost ever. And so, yes, and so have the people who call themselves Palestinians today. This sort of like battle over indigeneity is kind of stupid. Palestinians.
But it is a lot of history. I mean, people that you say that, but a lot of people go, history. We have been here. Look at history. And that's hard. I mean, you could look at the history of America and be like, I'm sure Mexico has something big to say about that. I mean, there's this idea of land taken over. Let me ask you this. You talk about a one state, you talk about everyone on this land having the exact same rights. Do you truly believe that this is, and I know that you say we need people that want to lead this way, but do you really believe that Israel is going to work with the Palestinian people to grant everybody the same rights as Israelis do?
No,
how does it happen then?
I don't think they will. Eventually, it just might become a reality that they're pushed into. I mean, do you think the white rulers in South Africa sort of graciously handed over power? I mean, no, it was world pressure. In this country, in 1860, white people in this country killed 600,000 of each other over whether or not slavery was a good idea. So, I mean, I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know. I wish that everyone would come to their senses and make it happen now. Because you know what, Nikki? It would be the most successful nation on earth, not just in terms of pluralism and coexistence, in terms of economy. Oh my God, we'd have the strongest economy on earth. Nikki, a lot of other countries in the world have some sort of natural resource. Do you know what our natural resource is in Palestine? God. And God is a fully renewable natural resource, and everyone wants to come see it. Oh my God. Do you know how much money we could charge at the like Visa? Do you know how much money we could charge? I mean, it's so much, because heaven ain't free. I mean, that's a very old economic principle. Heaven is, I mean, if you're poor, it's free, but if you could pay for it, It ain't free.
You're gonna pay for it.
It
Yeah.
ain't free, okay?
Oh.
And so, oh my, you know how much money we can charge people? This is where the angel Gabriel told Mary she's gonna have the baby Jesus, $100. This is
Yes.
where the John
I
the
know
Baptist
people that were about to go to Israel right before October 7th.
Oh
so,
my God! Do you know how much they
yes.
would pay? Oh my God!
Yes.
This is where the temple was. This
yes.
is where they built the mosque. I mean, we could charge so much money. Holy Disney, okay? It's gonna be the most successful economy on earth if everybody would come together and say, this land belongs to everybody. But Zionism has never wanted to say that. The problem with Zionism in Israel is not that it says Palestine is the homeland of the Jews. It's not that it says Palestine is a place where Jews are indigenous. That's not the problem. The problem is Zionism says Palestine is the homeland of only the Jews. And it says that Palestine is a place where only Jews are indigenous. Well, then we have a problem. And that's ridiculous. That's not borne out by history in any case. I mean, even if you believe in the Bible as a history book, when King David took over Jerusalem, he took it over from other people. There were other people there. They're called the Canaanites. They're in the Bible. I read the Bible too, okay? They're in the Old Testament. Do you know that there are still Palestinian families today that have the last name Kanaani, which means in Arabic, Canaanite? So we understand our history. And yes, we have names of people that came from other places too, because Palestine has, like, look at this silly anti-Arab racist comment that just came up on the screen. I ain't mad at anybody for putting it up, but I'm glad that it's there. The Palestinian homeland is Jordan, not Israel. Its leaders kicked them out. Know your history. This is such a lie, right? Who do you think we Palestinians are? You think we came out of some magic? You think we all showed up in the year 700? Palestine has never been a land that's been empty. We know that. It's never been a land that's been empty. Sometimes pro-Israel people tell you all the Palestinians today are people who descend from the Arab Muslim conquest that came in the year 700. Some of us are, but not all of us. The only way that would be true is if Palestine were empty at that time. But it wasn't. We know it wasn't. History tells Palestine has never been empty. So the Palestinians of today are a mixture of all the people who have come through Palestine over time, because Palestine has been a major destination because of its beauty, its economics, and its religious significance. And so we're a mixture of everybody. We are a mixture of Arabs, Jews, Canaanites, Byzantines, Romans, Greeks, Turks, even some Crusaders mixed in there. Everybody came to Palestine, and everybody came in Palestine.
That's a t-shirt. By the way, if anybody needs to know, he's a comedian also, so hence the joke. So I love.
By the way, if you didn't understand that joke, that's totally fine. If you don't understand that joke, that's fine.
Oh no,
I'll
my
say it
viewers
again.
are well aware.
I'll say it again. Everybody came to Palestine, and everybody came in Palestine. So we look like everything. Our names come from everywhere, but they also come from the very first people that lived there, including the Israelites and the Jews, by the way. I mean, a lot of we know from history, again, this is like very clear, right? The Bible is not the only history book in the world, okay? There are other history books where we know that there were Jews. The Romans tried to kick out all of the Jews. They kicked out a lot of them in the year 100, but they didn't get everybody. Jews remained. And other people were also there during that time. Canaanites, Philistines, Arabs were even living in the land of Palestine at the time of Jesus. We know that. King Herod comes from a group, a tribe called the Edomites, who are Arab Jews at the time. Okay, like this is all very clear in history. And so Palestinians, and then a lot of them converted to Christianity because of a guy named Jesus, who's also from there. Okay, also from there. Who okay. He's one of us. When people say, oh my God, there's Palestinian Christians. What? We're the first Christians. I mean, we're the first ones. And the Palestinian Christians who live in Palestine today, guess what? They're some of the oldest Palestinians, because it's not like people came to Palestine and converted to Christianity and created villages and cities. No, these are the first Christians who probably were Jews before that.
Yeah.
Okay. And many Muslims who live in Palestine today are from there too. And they might have been Christians before that, or Jews before that. I mean, that's
so
just
much
like obvious history.
Yeah.
But to say that Palestinians who live there today, all like that racist comment that was put on, they all come from Jordan. I mean, this is so crazy. There are PhDs at Israeli universities today who would tell you, like, Jewish Israeli historians who would tell you that's crazy. Of course, that's crazy. Palestine has never been empty. The Palestinians of today are a mixture of all the people that have come through there throughout the centuries. And so we are a mixture of everything. Of course, that's true. But we do know this. In 1948, 800,000 to 1 million Palestinians were ethnically cleansed from their homeland by the new Israeli government. 500 villages were destroyed. This is not up for debate. 500 villages were destroyed. People were kicked out. Guess what? It doesn't matter why they left, by the way. Whether they left at gunpoint, whether they heard there was a war in the next village, so they left, whether Arab leaders told them, hey, leave because we'll beat the Israelis, and then they left. It doesn't really matter why. They have a right to go back. That's clear in international law and in morality. I mean, if you leave your house because there's a hurricane coming and you leave, do you have a right to come back when the hurricane's over? Of course you do. If you leave because a hurricane happened 2 cities away, do you have a right to come back after the hurricane, even if the hurricane never hit your house? Of course you do. If you leave because the weatherman told you, hey, leave, there's a hurricane, and turns out there wasn't ever a hurricane, do you have a right to come back? Of course you do. I mean, come on now. Yeah. This is like obvious common sense things. So racist things that come up like, oh, the Palestinians are all from Jordan, they should all go there. This is racism, man. It's ridiculous.
So, and I appreciate you coming on. I'd love to have you back on. People wanted me to have you debate. I don't know if you do debates. We have a friend of the show. We worked together, a colleague, John Rothman. And he does. He does take the Israeli viewpoint of this whole entire conflict and the history. I don't want to do this, obviously tomorrow, whatever, but the door is always open. I appreciate you coming on.
I don't know. I'll tell you what, Nikki. I don't know anything. I don't know anything about Mr. Rothman. I really don't. I'll just say this as a general matter.
Yeah.
I enjoy debates. I'm a lawyer. I enjoy debates. I will debate with anyone who has the same or more educational background as me, because otherwise it's not a debate.
Yeah.
So if they have a master's degree in a related field, at least like I do, or a law degree, at least like I do. I don't know about Mr. Rothman at all. I really don't know. But I won't debate history with somebody who has not officially studied history. That doesn't mean reading a few history books.
No, John Rothman is he's a very educated man.
I don't know him. But
I'll bring it up to him.
I would love to read the resume. But again, I'm not interested in getting in a rhetorical debate.
Right.
I'm interested in getting if someone wants to have a debate, if we can agree on the basics of history. I mean, I will not have a debate with somebody who just throws around. I don't know Mr. Rothman.
Yeah,
but
I know you're not talking about him.
I won't get in a debate with somebody who simply says, well, all the Palestinians came with the Arab Muslims in the year 700, or all the Palestinians are from Jordan, or all the Palestinians are from somewhere else. This is racist erasure of our history. It's as silly as saying Jews don't have a connection to the land of Palestine. It's ridiculous. I won't get into a debate with somebody like that. I won't get into a debate with somebody who says all the Palestinians are Hamas, all the Palestinians want to eliminate Israel. I know that in 1993, our leadership got on a stage at the White House with the Israeli leadership. They shook hands. I remember that. I was in high school. I watched it. I'm sure you've seen videos of it. The Oslo Peace Accords that were signed on the White House lawn with Bill Clinton. Do you remember that? Do you see that? You've seen videos of that, right?
Yes.
With an Arab and a Jew. They were way shorter than Bill Clinton. I don't know. We're like two of the shortest people in the world, okay? Way shorter than Bill. I didn't know Bill Clinton was that tall. And when I saw him standing next to Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin, I was like, man, we are short. And we're standing and that was a good deal for the Israelis, by the way. Everybody knows that. Everybody knows it was a much better deal for the Israelis than it was for the Palestinians, evidenced by 30 years later, we still don't have a state. How did Palestinians react to that Oslo peace process? We were hopeful. We welcomed Yasser Arafat back to Palestine with open arms, made him the king of Israel or king of Palestine, and so on and so forth. How did the Israeli public react to that deal that was dared to humanize and equalize the Palestinians in some way, even though the deal was much better for Israel? How did the Israeli public and Israeli society react to that? They killed their leader. Yitzhak Rabin was assassinated as a result of him signing the Oslo Accords. And the guy who whipped up the public in favor of his assassination became the prime minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, and he's still the prime minister today.
He is still.
So I am not interested in hearing like who wants peace. Let's really talk about history, if you really want to talk about history, but you got to be educated on it. So to anyone out there that wants to debate, I'm happy to do it. But you
Well,
cannot
I'll
be
be
coming,
sending.
you know, like somebody with a master's degree, at least, Nikki. I mean, I think I deserve that. I can, do you want me, I can, listen, my mom can send you pictures of my degrees. Okay. My Arab mom can send you pictures of my degrees. They exist. They're in
I
the other room.
believe your background. I just, and again, I really appreciate you coming on. I know people in the comments, there's a lot of strong opinions, and I'm sure you get it all the time.
Sure.
But if you want to know more about him, his website is in the comments. My door is always open. I'll probably be reaching out to you again. I will be, to talk about Matthew McConaughey or something else. I don't know, but I do appreciate your time. I learned a lot. I hope people that are watching learned a lot. I'll reach out to John Rothman. I'll see. Maybe we'll do it. Kay says, disagree with much of what your guest asserts, but good conversation, and we need more of that if we really want fair, workable solutions. I agree. I absolutely agree. And Amir Zar, I appreciate you coming on. The door is always open. Amer Zar.
It's okay, Nikki.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Medoro.
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
I appreciate you.
Listen,
Thank
just
you so much.
an honor of you having me on the show today. I am going to spend the rest of my day rewatching A Time to Kill.
Yeah.
Also going to watch Killer Joe. I'm also going to watch Failure to Launch.
Oh, come on. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Best rom-com.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll watch that as well. Dallas Buyers Club with a box of Kleenex. I will watch.
Mud's a good one. Mud's a good one.
It's okay. It's okay. I mean, I am a movie guy. It's okay. I will.
You're just gonna have a Matthew McConaughey day, which is I can't.
Yeah,
I can't
total. What's the pop movie he did again?
The pop movie.
Wasn't he in a really pop? I don't remember, but
he's in all good movies. If it says Matthew McConaughey, and then you could rewatch him with Jimmy Fallon and My Tight White Pants or whatever thing that he just did on Sunday. Just Google that. That's the latest one.
I'm not gonna
drink tequila. If you like tequila, he has a new bottle of tequila.
Listen, just so you know, I'm not gonna Google Matthew McConaughey tight white pants.
It's really funny.
First of all, the FBI is already surveilling my computer, and the last thing I need is for that to be added to my file.
It might get you off the set. You never know. There's a lot of Matthew McConaughey fans.
No, thank you. I mean, he's made some terrible movies too, but so has Amistad, great movie. I loved Amistad. Amistad is a movie about American history. What?
I don't think I've seen that one.
Oh, Amistad. You got to watch it. Amistad is a movie with Matthew McConaughey, Morgan Freeman, and Anthony Hopkins, where it's about a slave ship that they try to get freedom. It's from the 1800s. Remember, I forget the name of the black actor in that movie. He did he wasn't in a lot of movies. But
I'll have to Google it.
Remember, Give Us Free. You don't remember that movie? Oh, it's great. Amistad, late 90s.
I'll put it on my list. Maybe I'll watch that later.
I'm going straight from Amistad to Magic Mike. And then, that's
an excellent one.
Yeah. Why am I not surprised that you're much more familiar with Magic? Much more familiar with Magic Mike than you are with Amistad.
Is good. There's so many. I appreciate you so much.
All right. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
All right. See ya.
Bye-bye. Thank you.